So if you're a flat owner and you own a leasehold, then this is definitely a video that you want to listen to because it might help you. So what I'm going to be discussing is RTM, otherwise known as right to manage, and how it can potentially help you. So this is something I'm actually currently working on, and I want to discuss about what it entails and how you can actually activate it for your situation so that you're saving costs in the long run. RTM, what is it? So RTM essentially enables leaseholders to actually take management over when it comes to their building. So usually what happens is you have a freeholder, they own the building and they own the land that it sits on as well. And the leaseholder is essentially leasing that specific flat for a set number of years, whatever the lease term is at that specific point. And ultimately, the freeholder is responsible for the upkeep of that building. Now, the cost that's attributed to that is then passed over to leaseholders in the form of a service charge. And what we're seeing is service charges are incredibly high because it's not the freeholder that has to fork out for it. So a lot of times, they don't really have that much incentive to keep those costs low because they're not the ones that are paying for it. And so what you tend to see is a lot of extortionate fees where you're paying a lot in service charges and year on year, this amount increases. And you know, you can go from actually having a flat and you're paying maybe £1,000 a year in service charges to then in a few years that's double and triple. I've seen it happen. It's quite common. And actually in a lot of ways it's very unfair. Now there is a lot of leasehold reforms that are coming into play in the next couple of years where they're looking to stop the creation of new leaseholds and actually bring in common holds. But right now there are a lot of leaseholds and a lot of people suffering as well. So the way you can actually activate right to manage is if you have 50% or more of the leaseholders in your building actually agree to take over the management of that building. So you actually take the management over from either the freehold or the management agent that's acting on behalf of the freehold. And essentially you'd be responsible for the works that go onto the building. So the cleaning, the removal of the bins, the specific insurances that are needed, and you'd work with other leaseholders in ensuring all these things are in place. Now, the main benefit that comes with right to manage is that you will then have control. You'd have control over the people that you're hiring, the people that are doing the works, and you will obviously look for more favorable rates because it's coming out of your pocket. So in a lot of instances, when right to manage is done correctly, this could save you a lot of money in the future because you're the one that is paying for it. So you're going to make sure that you're getting the best quality, but also the best price for the works that you're assigning. So this is something that I'm currently working on at the moment. So I've actually got enough leaseholders now on board in my flat in Gillingham to actually kickstart the process for RTM. So we're actually in the process of actually setting up the company. I will be serving notice to the management agent. And it should then in the long run save us costs because we're going to be very mindful of who's actually coming into the properties and who's actually doing the work. And we're going to obviously look around and shop around for any type of work that we want. So it's going to mean that we're getting the best costs and we're going to have an eye on who actually is doing the work. Because a lot of times what I'm seeing as well is that certain contractors are assigned to do works, but a lot of times they're not being seen in the buildings. And it can be very frustrating because leaseholders are actually forking out these high service charge costs. Now, this is obviously going to be easier the fewer flats that's in your block. You know, if you're in a block of flats where there's hundreds of flats, then it's going to be considerably harder. However, if you've got a dozen or fewer flats and you're suffering from high service charges, then this is definitely something that you can push forward. So what I did initially, I went on land registry and then I was able to get the titles of the specific flats and then actually see where the owners actually lived. From there, I sent out letters to those addresses, and then over time, I was able to get people to reach back out. And then from there, we had meetings and discussions about what was actually happening, how high the service charges were, and what we want to do going forward. So that's what I recommend. It will be £7 per flat to get the information that you need. And you can do this on the government website. You can get the address and the name of the individual that owns that flat, because a lot of times, a lot of the flats may actually just be tenants living in it because they're being rented out by the landlord. So the best way to then ensure that you're going and getting the correct addresses is to go on land registry. So in doing that, then you can slowly build some trust, advise them that actually if we work together and set up our own company, we can save a lot of costs. And over time, you'll be able to get people to agree. For me, it took me over a year to actually get enough leaseholders now finally on board for us to now move forward with this. So next year, I expect us to actually be able to actually take over from the freehold management agent and actually just start managing the building ourselves. I know a few other investors as well that actually do this. There's a lady, an expert, her name is Maura Walsh. So she's actually been advising me quite a lot as well on actually how to do this in the best way. So I'll ensure I leave her contacts in the description. So if RTM is something that you want to look into in a lot more detail, then I'll definitely reach out to Maura, as she's a specialist in this area. And it was with her advice I was able to actually move the process forward in the way that I've done. So hopefully this video has helped you understand a little bit about how you can actually look to reduce your service charge costs by working with other leaseholders and actually taking over the management of the building so you can save costs in the long run. So if you enjoyed this video, do give it a like, and if you found value from this video or any other video on this channel, then do subscribe as well. Until next time, happy investing.